Okay, at this point, we're gonna move to our regular meeting. So, Clerk, do we have a speaker's list? Yes. Right now, we're gonna move to our regular speaking, what our regular speaking list out here. Well, in this segment, we're going to have, allow 4 minutes to speak. At 3 minutes, the buzzer will go off. After 3 minutes, you'll have 1 additional minute to finish up and wrap up your comments at this particular time. Okay. Our first speaker will be Eddie Johnson.
Yeah, I sent you one back.
Eddie Johnson.
Eddie Johnson, 106 West Avenue. Real quick, my main concern is adults and the senior citizen. Again, I'm a senior citizen initiative. The building had been cold for a while. They had been moving the seniors from over there to the armory. So I just was wondering why the building was so cold. It's been like this for a couple of years. I had talked to the couple of seniors there. They had said how cold the building was for a couple of years. And we just was wondering why this is happening. That's all that. And also with the speak up. Also, with the giving of food out, we give the food out on Fridays, certain Fridays. Is there a way to help, like give the seniors the food first? You know, like help out, but they can't carry the bags and everything. And I want to commend the recreation department, the van drivers, bus drivers. They stayed after it was all over to take the senior citizens home. I thought that was nice. And also, one thing with the veteran department, I think she's doing an excellent job right there. But she need help. You know, like I looked at all the other commissioners, they had somebody in the front office helping. You know, when you come down, she had to close the office down. She had to do other things. You know, so if they could give her some help, we appreciate it. I see in the budget, they have all this money coming in for that. But why is she working by herself? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan Ritter.
Stefan Ritter, 252 God Avenue, Vernon, New York. Also 241 South 9th Avenue, Vernon, New York. I'm just going to finish off where I left off yesterday. For us to continue to come here and nothing get done, and you have your own agenda, what are y'all going to do for the people who are residents or residents' children? We are the ones from this south side that are not being represented by any of you. And I'm here to represent that situation. Being that the mayor had made an illegal budget in which he's taking the funds that belong to us, the lease that belong to us, the area and the land in which belong to us, and there's no one to represent us as a people. And I'm here to represent us as a people. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about your word failing? And when your word fails, you shall give your life if your word should fail. What about your obligations to the community that's born and raised? What about the ones that I'm coming to you each and every day and I'm bringing you nothing but truth over all of your lies? And you're constantly letting an indicted mayor, instead of impeaching him, you're staying behind him and you're working with him because he's indicted. That means he's waiting to go to trial, to go to jail. And when everybody else who gets indicted goes to jail. So now we are suffering because of this matter that you're not doing your job. The police is arresting people for living according to the way we live before they came here. We are a town. You're dealing on a city obligation in which the city don't have love for the town residents, the president's children. So you're locking them up and taking their name and using it with other people's name, and the people, you're giving away our fame, you're giving away our fortune, you're giving away our dreams. We can't live Martin Luther King's dreams because he got killed for living his dream. So you're worshiping the dead instead of the ones who are alive. You have a legend wall with no legends but a few basketball players, baseball, wrestler, but the rest of them are not even from Mount Vernon. We are the best that ever happened to Mount Vernon, and this is a basketball team. And we always like all the best like that. You've seen Gus and Ray and all of them, but you've seen the best of us being held back because of the ignorance of you. And when is this going to break the chain for a new world order? This is what is ordained for the first to become last and the last to become first. I'm not in all of your organizations, but I'm knowledgeable of every oath, every pledge, the pledge allegiance to a flag for the Republicans in which you stand. So that's what America is, the Native American and the Republican. So when you're dealing with these other island people over the original people of the land, that's where you fail because you're angry at the people who we grew up with. And we're not angry because we grew up together. We were able to go to their homes and eat in their houses. They were able to come to ours. We graduated with almost 15,000 of us in one high school. From the 8th grade, 9th grade, it was 3,000 in each grade to the 12th grade. Now I come home and I'm dealing with the police trying to arrest me because some other foreigner called the police on me, and I haven't even done anything wrong. So I'm not running, I'm not scared of anything. I'm the highest ranking in the civil service. And y'all not trying to respect it when it needs to be respected. And I'm going to leave with this. No matter what organization you're in, you have rules, regulations, obligations, pledges, and oaths, and we live under the law. So the law always outweighs every last one of them in which you took because your word fed, and you should give your life, and not the one who brings you up to your square, or to a rectangle, or to a triangle, and to a square. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. Tom Keller.
Being properly leave.
Thomas Keller, 12 Pasadena Place, 10552. I hope some of you people were here last night, you heard me rail against these revenues that are so inflated versus what's actually happened in 2018. Thank you, Comptroller Reynolds, for pointing this out. Hope everybody has a copy of this. Okay, there's a $20 million shortfall between the mayor's budget and what's actually occurred in 2018. When the mayor proposed the budget in September, maybe he was just looking at the prior year's budget and then grossing revenues up instead of looking at estimated actual. Maybe he couldn't get the numbers from the controller, I don't know. Maureen used to put out a quarterly report, a macro report showing the budget through 1, 2, and 3 quarters above or below. Anyway, there's 3 items in here that make up most of the 20 million. One is money from the state. It seems like we only get $814,000. It's on page, what's the code here? Anyway, we get about $7 million from the state, and it shows we've only got an 814. I suspect the state, maybe they didn't get the money to us by the end of the year, calendar year 18, so it should be coming in. I think they're good for it. But there's 2 other items: parking fees going up from like 800 to 3.5 million, and then sales receipts going up from 13 to 20. You know, we've got a difference of about 9 million there. You know, as I pointed out last night, how could you keep with those numbers if the actual numbers are so far different? I mean, we're losing parking spaces, there's no new garages, no new parking lots, unless you increase revenue. As I was saying, it costs 25 cents for 15 minutes. Are we going up to $1 for 15 minutes? And by the way, this happened under either Clinton Young or Davis's third term. Why don't you put meters back on the Western Parkway and get some money, as opposed to having permit parking and nobody parks there? Even Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which are heavy commuter days to the city, there's only a few cars along there. Some money's better than no money. So, you guys, you have to look at this budget very carefully. These revenue numbers, especially the ones that I pointed out, are just way out of whack. I was given something by one of the mayor's people about auditing the Urban Renewal Agency for 2016 and 17. $400,000 to do an audit of that little agency for 2 years? I mean, go out and get some bids. Before you approve any of that money, ask the mayor to go out and get some bids from not only O'Connor Davies, but the Westchester Business Journal. They list the top 10 or 15 public accounting firms that operate in Westchester. You can get this list. Go ahead, put it out for bid. It seems like $400,000 to audit that little agency is ridiculous. And you know, that agency's been has been trouble for a long, long time. Remember 10 or 15 years ago when they didn't pay the health insurance? You had 35 people coming in here, beaten down. Finally, the council appropriated $3 or $4 million to pay for it. And there were 35 people in the agency at that time. Some of the money was being spent on birthday parties and stuff. What a waste of money. And now I guess it's down to, I don't know, 10 employees or something like that. What's that? Urban Renewal Agency budget. Before you approve it, please review these revenues and ask the mayor what's behind a 50% increase in sales receipts, mortgage recording tax, huge increase. What justifies it? And I wonder, how can we pay our bills in 2018 if these actual numbers are actual versus the budget? How can we pay our bills? Are we doing like the College of New Rochelle when they went bankrupt and they refused to pay Medicare and Social Security to the federal government? I mean, do we have a lot of payables that were incurred in 2018 which we haven't paid yet? This is a serious problem.
Thank you, Mr. Geller.
Thank you.
James Robinson.
Good evening, President Wallace, council members, fellow non-residents. I come this evening once again to say thank you. I say thank you for the new city lights, the street lights that have gone up.
Mr. Robinson, could you just say your name and address for the record,
I
please?
said, James D. Robinson Jr., 318 Garden Avenue.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for the lights. It makes a big difference. I feel safe. Thank you that the public.
Hold on 1 second. Excuse me, in the back, we can hear you. We can hear you up here. Can you, if you want to take your comments, a conversation outside, please? Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes, continue, please.
We shouldn't be rude. We shouldn't be rude. Thank you for the park. I thank you for the street lamps. It's a good thing to be able to go out at night. I feel safe. I feel safer for the people that live in our community. I thank you that the stop sign went back up on 4th Street in Garden, but we still have a problem with people running that stop sign. And I'm so concerned that one child is going to get hit one day. I brought this to your attention before, and you said you would pass it on to the police commissioner. But people are still running stop signs during school time. I want to commend the fire department on the fire that happened to our neighbor, 100-year-old lady. They fought it diligently. She was a staple in the neighborhood. Everybody knew her and speak to her. She spoke to everybody. I still have concerns though. I constantly, I was born in Montgomery, born and raised in Montgomery. And I see us constantly infighting with each other. Memorial Field being what it is, infighting with each other. It's like everybody wants to be in control, but nobody knows what to do. And it's getting frustrating. I love this city. I keep saying we need to think of ourselves as the first city outside of New York City. And I'm tired of the negative press that we get. I'm tired of the infighting. And it makes no sense. You should be able to sit down and come to some type of common ground. Everybody can't be right and everybody can't be wrong. But you have to think of the citizens that elected you to these positions. They elected you for a reason. This is the nonsense that's going on in Washington, D.C. You have a Speaker of the House who thinks he's the president. You have a president who don't know who he is. This is the problem that we have. But you guys got to sit down and come to some type of common ground. And when you start fussing at each other, say to each other, hey, remember why you got elected? Remember why when I stood on Reverend Robinson's lawn and I talked to him, and I talked to them, and I talked about what I would try to accomplish? We have to come together as a city. It has to stop. Let's be an example. Let's think of ourselves as the first city of Westchester. We have to. It's got to stop. It's got to. We have to come together as a peaceful city. That's all I have to say. I just want to come and commend. I know everybody comes complaining all the time about this and that, but I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you, and I think you all can do better. Even with Mayor Thomas, he's young. He's an idealist. He has great ideas. But great ideas have to be paid for. So try to work together. Just try. You'd be surprised what it'll do. It'll make your soul feel happy.
Thank you. Glenn Harris.
Happy New Year, Council. Glenn Harris, 629 South 6th Avenue, Vernon. Mr. Griffith, I think Mr. Keller could have talked to you about going to outside accountants when your experience would be enough to catch every problem in the books that's rotten and wrong. The qualifications never change because you switch your positions, but that's the point. We don't seem to want to confer with each other in regards to straightening out the problems of the city. For years, folks like myself came here and offered up our professional points of views and said we would made our service available for nothing to help the town. Mr. Wallace, it's good to see you in the news again, because I was shocked to find that the water department jacked up my water bill rather than asking me. It becomes a problem when things are done underhandedly, and sometimes you say, well, if we ignore it or we try to capitulate to it, it doesn't resolve the fact that the city is in a particular quagmire that is a stench that permeates all of Lower Hudson based on the people who we elected choose to harm us. I look at Deborah Reynolds. That's a person I truly like and admire over the years. But yet what's happening to her, what's happening with Maureen, it hasn't changed. There's a certain chauvinistic stupidity to attack the women that work for our government and try to indict them. I heard ex-unknown, the mayor, went to the governor about removing her when he himself is going to be removed. How does that make any sense? That means nothing gets accomplished. When you have these outrageous figures that this gentleman, Walter Keller, about monies and budgets, that's the damnation stick about what's going wrong. How the citizens are being robbed and held accountable, because I can't back out of here and say I'm not going to pay no taxes without being dragged in for not paying those taxes. But am I getting the bang for my buck? No, I'm not. Memorial Field came up again. I remember 15 years ago, Mr. Griffin, I had an argument about watch the length of time when stupidity about the money of Memorial Field will go beyond 10 years. It will be 15 years before that becomes an accomplishment. I wish they'd have a parade of stupidity of the people who are going to feel happy about it took you 15 years to fix Memorial Field. The damnation of this, how many kids dropped down, killed themselves, events happened, people did not have a place to go to exercise their demons. But we're supposed to sit back and swallow ourselves with baby powder and stuff to say it'll be okay. No, it's not. We have failed. We're going to fail. It's imperative that you guys stand behind each other, and that means even if you don't like Deborah Reynolds, stand with her, because to have somebody submit a letter for your removal, that's like being on the job and you find the people on the job want you fired just because they didn't like you. Never mind what you could accomplish, what you did accomplish. Oh, I just don't like you, so you should go. Memorial Field will always be my damnation stick against everything and everyone in Mount Vernon, because that is something that I, again, didn't say as a prophet. I said, just watch the stupidity behind it and see what we've accomplished. I remember when everybody wanted to tear up Lyndon Williams based on the fact he got the money for it, but they wanted to blame Lyndon for getting the money when they were robbing it blind. I can't say anything about anything else happening in Mount Vernon, because we have accomplished some things. You've got some stuff done, which, again, welcome to the new year. You've done your jobs with that. But I'll be damned if I turn and say I'll be happy or want to shake anybody's hand about the stench that is Memorial Field. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, we will open up, we will hear comments from, what's everybody? This time we're going to have comments from our council people. Starting with Councilwoman Ferguson.
Good evening to the community. I want to say Happy New Year to all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your participation. It is good to see our democracy being practiced. So Mr. Johnson left and he talked about no heat in the Dole Center building, so that's something that I will take responsibility for and check into with the Commissioner of Recreation, and also for the food distribution he talked about. So those are things that I can follow up on. I recently appointed as the chairperson for Human Services, Human Resources, that committee, so it falls under that committee, so I'll check into that. Mr. Ritter, it's always good to hear your analysis of the problems and the challenges our community face, so thank you for always being here. Mr. Keller, I share your concerns about the proposed budget. I share your concerns about the revenue projections. I also heard when you said that the previous controller was intentional in providing the community on a regular update of actual spending. That's not something that we have had the benefit of for this year, and I'm going to take for granted that the information provided by the controller is the actual up until December 31st of 2018. I'd like to get, a document that tells the council what the actuals are for all the line items, so we can review that for ourselves. But yes, this budget is very concerning, and so there's much work to be done on the budget. There's much work for this council to do, in the process. So it's by no means a done deal, and I'm sure that our council president is representing the council well in the deliberations with the mayor. Mr. Robinson, thank you for being here. I agree that Mount Vernon is the first city out of New York City. I like that, Monica. And you're welcome for the lights. Don't know what much I had to do with it, but you're welcome. I agree, because it's something I think that has been applied on our city, because darkness provokes all kinds of things. So I think that having light is a step in the right direction for us. As for the infighting, my commitment is to not participate in that, or at least try not to participate in that. But there's a lot of foolishness that goes on in the city. There's a lot of nonsense. And so, if you are well-meaning, if you came with a commitment to work on behalf of the citizens, the community, how the sausage is made is, it's really, it can be very disheartening. I'm by no means weary, but I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of foolishness that goes on in city government. So, Mr. Harris, thank you for your continued commitment to always being here, for making sense. I too was one of those that was disheartened. My children were still relatively small when Memorial Field was closed. I went up to the county to protest. And so it is like a parade of stupidity to see what's brought us here. The fact that it's been ego and greed and God knows what else has, deprived the community of the use of that facility. So, my hope is that we will continue to make strides, and that as things, are remediated. Right now, I think we're waiting on a remediation report from the mayor's office to say that the next step has been done at Memorial Field, so that the county can begin to assume more responsibility for the construction that will take place. But that in itself will take some time. But I'm very hopeful that that process, once we get through, the last of the quagmire, as we call it, that we will begin to see progress at Memorial Field. So I thank the community for being here. I encourage you to continue your participation, to be vigilant in executing your duties, to ask questions, to encourage others to come and to see what is going on here, to see how you are being represented, because that's the role of City Council. The role of the City Council is to represent the community, not to represent ourselves, but to represent the community. And so I encourage you to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ferguson. Councilwoman Duarte.
Thank you, President Wallace. Thank you to all the residents coming out tonight and joining us for the public hearing that earlier, and also for this public session. We welcome your complaints as well as your compliments. So it was nice to see a balance of both of those tonight. To Mr. Stefan Ritter, I want to just thank you for your service and your commitment. He's still here, but for his commitment to this community. Mr. Keller, with regards to the budget, I think that it has been expressed that there are concerns about the numbers. Certainly, we'll be looking at them closely. We will be asking for the support to back up those numbers so that we can be sure that have some confidence in those numbers. I also have a concern about timing, given how delayed this process has been, that we don't have a lot of time, but yet we have a lot to do before we can Mr. Robinson, thank you for coming out and sharing some of your thoughts and concerns. I think that, or one of the commitments that I have certainly made is to engage in positive and constructive discussions. And we don't always have to agree on every issue, but certainly having open dialogue and exploring all of the facets of an issue so that we can arrive at the best possible solution for our citizens is what we strive for. And so I will continue to try to stay focused on that, on working in that fashion, rather than participating in matters that may, in other issues that may be more distraction than helpful. And Mr. Glenn Harris, I am now the new committee chair for legislation and public works, and so I'll be working with the council president on the water department and the issues there. I'd like to ask if you're comfortable with sharing your water bill and demonstrating to us what has happened so that we can actually see what they've done and providing us with that information, if you're comfortable with that. And then with regards to, I just want to say with regards to Memorial Field, the one positive that we have is a strong partnership with the county. And they're driving quite a bit of an effort, and I think that there's alignment between county and this council, and I now am part of the HR committee that's now Councilwoman Ferguson, so the efforts are just, I think, are going to continue, and as she stated, we're going to see some movement there. So there is some positive. It's just unfortunate. It just takes time. And then I don't see Mr. Johnson, but again, just thanking him for coming out and sharing his concerns, especially the impact that it has on our senior population. So again, thank you everyone tonight. Happy New Year, and looking forward to a better year.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duarte. Next will be Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everybody. As we always say, thank you for coming out. I'm going to begin with Mr. Robinson. Thank you. I see the family back there. Good to see you all. I thank you for the positive encouragement. One thing that I always do is reset myself. So even if I had a big argument with somebody the night before, the next day is a new day, and I reset. Yesterday I was in the mayor's office, and I would have guaranteed you that the day, an hour prior, I would have guaranteed you that I would not have been in the mayor's office, but I often reset myself. And I sat down there with Council President, and we had discussions about doing what we need to do to move the city forward. So my commitment is to always, like I said, to reset myself and continue to know that the goal is to make this city better to the best of my ability. So I thank you for that. In regards to the LED lights that you brought up, well, let me back up. First, I'm going to try to stay on all financial issues tonight. So as far as the LED lights coming up, it's good that we do have the LED lights. That is not coming out of our city budget, I believe, because this council really hasn't been briefed on how the LED lights are being paid for. I believe they're being funded by the IBA. At the end of the day, that is really a positive impact for the city of Mount Vernon, because not only are we going to be paying less for the electricity, and we're also, and the lighting is good, but we're going to pay less for the electricity, and we're not going to be billed the overages that we were being billed in the past. So quick calculation in my mind, I think my numbers are correct. The city will probably be saving upwards towards $2 million a year just on the false electric charges for the 4,400 light fixtures that we have. So it's very good that those LED lights are going. We do have some complaints of some people because of the way LED lights are shining, but I think we can work those out. The first step is to replace those old-fashioned heads that were costing us way too much, so that is a good move. Mr. Harris, thank you very much. Yes, I do have an accounting degree. I've been working this budget for the last 10 years or so. It's kind of easy for me. I kind of know it by heart because I've looked at it so much. And yes, we are going to, at least from my point of view, and I've already done this year, I must say that this budget has been kicked down the road I believe intentionally to get us into almost the end of January, and that's a crime, I believe, on the taxpayers of Mount Vernon. It is my goal to strip out all of those increases, try to get to some real numbers that make sense, Mr. Keller, and then go from there. I'm afraid, though, that the budget increase is going to be a larger number than we would want it to be, because I don't believe we could use any general fund money. Last year, I think we used $5 million. We've always used some of those excess resources that we put aside years prior. I don't think we can use any general fund money this year, which makes it a shame because my goal, from my perspective, is to always keep the budget increases somewhere around 2% every year, because taxes are always going to go up. We always have to raise any salaries. There's always some expenditure that we need. And if this year we get to a point, for example, that we have to raise the budget to 4%, it's a shame because last year we should have raised it 2%, so that this year it could be 2%. So we're smoothing this increase as we go forward. And I definitely don't want to present a shock on the taxpayers where you have a 0% increase one year, then you have a 7-8% tax increase the next year. So I guarantee you we're going to work that out. I don't believe this council is going to suggest any high increases for any salaries, because I think we have some realities coming forward based on the administration that we have, and we're going to have some expenditures that we did not expect. And it's a shame, but I think that's our reality. So it is what it is. I think that's it. Let me quit before I get too long-winded. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless Mount Vernon.
Thank you, Councilman Griffith. Once again, thank you all for coming out tonight. You know, you could have been someplace else, but you're spending time with us. You did listen and get a chance to hear a public hearing and exactly what's going on in our city. I know Mr. Johnson had left, but a lot of those things I'm sure Councilwoman Ferguson would look into follow up, because regarding the heat and things like that, it will be through the administration who will have to handle that particular procedure. But I'm sure Councilwoman will make sure that they are following up with those things as well. Stefan Ritter, it's always a pleasure to see you coming out. Once again, I believe he left for the day, so we're going to Tom Keller regarding the budget. We're working on the budget. I sent out a letter last week to the controller and to the mayor. The controller did not show up today, but the mayor and I sat down for 3.5 hours in this room right here, going through the budget. And yes, we are going to reduce that budget dramatically. We already started out where we removed all those raises. So all of those things that I see was over budgeted, and almost everything that you came in with today, we already addressed it. We took all that out, even the parking meter, the parking tickets and all, that he has a big increase on, okay? Which I took out as well, because that's just another additional taxation on the people. So it's not a way to generate revenue by jacking up the parking meters and writing people excessive tickets. So we did a lot of things on the budget. We still have a whole lot of work to do. And Councilman Griffith is actually right, because I met with the accounting firm and had dialogue with them back and forth. We cannot use any fund balance to balance this budget, which is going to change the game of this budget. We are not going to be able to stay under the tax cap. We know that because last year we used $5.5 million to balance the budget. Okay, and we don't have that money to put in now. So we do not have a 2016 URA audit, and I found out today after we were working on trying to get that together, we don't have a 2017 audit as well, that the mayor has just dropped on me this morning, saying that they don't have money to do that one either. So we are stuck in a very bad position, because unless we do these things, we are not going to get our bonding back, and we are not going to get our credit rating. Therefore, we can't borrow money. We are not taking in money right now, so you can see how that's going to work out. If you continue to spend and have a expenditure without income, eventually it dries up. So it is very important that we get this budget done and the council realize how urgent this is. So we're trying to work together and we're trying to get the numbers from the comptroller. And trying to get everyone to sit down has been a major task, but I look forward to making that happen. And I'm sure we will. And then pretty soon we will have a budget. Hopefully by next week we can sit down and we'll have numbers, we'll crunch with everybody because this is an urgent matter. So we are working on it, but we are looking at that budget and believe me, we stripped it down very much, very much. Mr. Robinson, thank you for coming out and having those positive words. A lot of times people come here and it's all negative. So it's good to see that we have, someone coming out and realize things are getting done. We did sit down with the mayor last year about those lightings. It's actually not costing us anything. And right now, as the lights go in and when it balances, the money that will be paid back by the savings, I think over 6 years was the contract when we sat down with New York Power Authority, right down in his office. So we went through all those numbers and we went through those things last year. Actually, the city would probably profit about $250,000 a year. We took a lower salary, a lower profit margin, so that we can pay off the lights and the bills quicker. Because you can say that if $1 million came in, we could have did 50-50, but it'll take longer for the lights to be paid off. So we did it, we took a little less money, okay, and to get the lights paid off quicker. I think it's gonna be paid off in about 6 years, and then from there, that whole $1 million that would come in will belong, in the savings will belong to the city and the taxpayers. So that is a good thing, so we made sure that we took care of that lighting thing. And, we gotta thank the mayor as well, because the mayor did, bring in this company. We did have these meetings, and like I tell everybody, he's not always wrong, and he doesn't have, all his ideas are not bad. We just gotta sit down, we gotta work it out, and if, when you see something like that works out, we can actually have a benefit to the city. That's gonna save us money. But you're right, we all gotta sit down, we all gotta work together. And hopefully we can continue to do that. Mr. Harrison, regarding Memorial Field, at this point, I know Councilwoman Farquharson has all the names and everything else. She has all the information. She's going to move forward with that. But it is moving forward. So we have made some major strides in that. And, I look forward to it really getting underway as the weather breaks. So at least, I know it may have been 10 years, but we weren't here for 10 years. I've been here for 3. So, and this is long before I got here. But at least we're getting things done now. And the county has stepped in. We've been with all that we had to do to pass it on to the county, to get the county's help to complete this, and it should be completed soon. Regarding the water department, as an update, yes, I did submit the papers. We sued the water department. That is still being heard right now on both sides. And it's a very, very funny situation, because today, as I was sitting in there with the mayor going over the budget, okay, in his legal papers, he says that there's no money from the water department to give because they're using it for water lining. However, in the paperwork in here that he had in the documents, it says that we got $1 million that's coming to the city from the water department. So which one it is? In court, you say we don't have the money, but on the budget, you say we have the money. So we got to figure out which one of these things is right? Because if we do have the money, then you're lying over here. And if we don't have the money, you're lying over here. So one way or another, the story is not adding up. So we're going to have to figure out how to make it add up, and I wish that there is money. I would go with that one, the latter. And hopefully we'll move forward with the city, because we need as much money as we can to balance this budget. And this way we can keep these taxes as low as possible. But as we look into more of what is going on with the lawsuits and all of the different things that are going on, and the lawsuits that have just been paid out, we are not looking as solid as we should. So hopefully we will, address the public and give them more updates as we, get more answers on where we're going with this budget, and we'll get to get that completed very soon. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and If there's any last minute comments that anybody would have, okay. So at this particular time, we're gonna close our public speaking session, and we're gonna get ready to take a 5-minute break, and then we're gonna move right into the referrals coming up. Thank you. We're gonna start with our referral session. Legislation and public works.
Thank you, President Wallace. Item number 1 is on the agenda. Item number 5 is for information. Item number 9 is being moved to the Finance and Planning Committee. Item 13 is called for. Item 19 is for information. Items 25, 26, 29, and 30 are for information. And you did receive an add-on from the Board of Ethics, and that's called for. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Human resource.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no items for referral this evening. That completes my report.
Thank you. Public safety and codes.
Thank you, Council President. Item number 6 is for information. Item number 12 is called for. Number 15 is for information. Number 18 is called for. Number 21 is for information. Number 22 is called for. Number 27 and 28 are for information. And there was an add-on from the Buildings Commissioner, and that is on the agenda as item number 2.
That completes your report.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance and planning.
Thank you, CP. Items number 2 and 4 for information. Item number 7 is being called for. Items 8, 10, and 11 are for information. Item 14 was enacted. Item 16 is for information. 17, I'm asking to be called for, however, it's on the agenda, so I will be holding that on the agenda this evening. Items 20 and 23 are for information, and I do have an add-on, which is on the agenda that I see on the agenda enumerated as number 3. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Brown. Can we facilitate a roll call?
We did a roll call, sir.
Yes.
Oh,
You can go right into the agenda.
Oh, okay. Legislation and public works.
Thank you, Council President. I have an ordinance granting permission for a curb cut at 200, I'm sorry. Curb cut at 240 East Sanford Boulevard, so moved.
Second.
On the question? Anna, roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Council President Wallace.
Aye. Public safety and codes.
Thank you, Council President. I have an ordinance authorizing the building clerk, Kim Knott, for a 1-year leave of absence beginning January 28, 2019 through January 27, 2020. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Council President Wallace.
Aye. Finance and planning?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an ordinance authorizing the city council to retain the firm of Zarin and Steinmetz for land use matters. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
No.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
No.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Council President Wallace.
Aye.
Item number 4, I'm asking to be held on the floor.
Okay. That completes our legislative session. Is there anything that needs to be brought before the floor before we close?
Council President,
Yes.
I just want to bring to the attention of the council and to the public that the Westchester County has been conducting a housing needs assessment, and the company and the organization who is doing the assessment is going to be hosting a public hearing, a public forum. Give me 1 minute, I'm going to get the date correct. Next Tuesday, January 29th, starting at 6 p.m. at the Mount Vernon Extension Center of the Westchester Community College on South Fifth Avenue. For everyone that can attend, this is a public forum for the Westchester County Housing Needs Assessment. We're having 2 public forums. One is in Mount Vernon next Tuesday from 6 to 8 at the Westchester Community College Extension, and the other will be in Ossining on Thursday the 31st from 6 to 8, and that's at the Community Center in Ossining. So I just wanted to bring that attention to the attention of this council as well.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Coincidentally, the second housing forum that I've hosted is scheduled for that date. We've been advertising it for about a month. I just found out yesterday that the county has scheduled this needs assessment, but I'm going to claim it as a victory for our community, that the focus that we have placed on the need for public housing has driven the county to act on this community's behalf and to convene a housing needs assessment. I think that's an important step because the crisis in public housing that is happening in this community is at significant proportions. I've attended housing court. People are being evicted left, right, and center. Folks are being exploited. There are lots of people being evicted in this community, and so housing is at crisis proportions. So I'm glad that the county is acting. The forum that we're holding, the second forum in the series that we're holding to educate the community and to help residents is on the 29th of January at 258 South Columbus Avenue. It's our second forum, and we will have resources to arm the residents, the folks who are being harmed by this housing crisis that is happening in our community. So to develop a response for the community so that folks can begin to protect themselves and protect their housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Griffin? Anything? Nope. All right. Well, I'm going to take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson.
Aye.
Councilman Griffin.
Aye.
Council President Wallace.
Aye. This session is now.